Benvenuto! Welcome to Cherry Hill Home Cooking. My name is Mark. Today we're going to make garlic butter steak and potatoes. This is a very popular dish. There's tons and tons of recipes on it out on YouTube, but of course mine is the best one. But my goal with this was I wanted to try to make this kind of a fast weeknight dinner, and for the most part things you might have around the house. So I've changed it a lot from a lot of the different recipes are out there, and I've tried to make it so that we're using dried herbs, crushed garlic, and a few things, like I said, that you might have in the house that you don't have to run to the store and get. So anyway, one of the chief components of this is garlic and butter. So we've got some crushed garlic. Now, again, in simplifying the recipe, I'm using the minced garlic from the jar. I don't use it often. I always do have some in my refrigerator though, because you never know when you're going to need some garlic and you want to do it quick. So there's no chopping, no mincing in that. Make that a little bit easier. Of course, we need some butter. I'd use unsalted butter in this because in the marinade there's soy sauce and Worcestershire sauce. So of course the salt content is going to be high. So I would use unsalted butter. But if you don't have it, who doesn't like a little salt? All right, so then we're going to need some steak or beef. You can use any type of beef you want. This happens to be what's called a skillet steak. It's really delicious. It's got a good fat content in it, so it stays nice and tender. We're not going to cook the life out of this, or, well, technically, I guess the life out of it's already gone. But we're not, it's a quick cook on it. All right. Now, I may not always have steak in the refrigerator, but you might see it on sale or something, and maybe you've picked some up and frozen it. One of the things I almost always do have is some kind of potatoes in my house. These happen to be just the little gold potatoes. And as you can see, I've sliced them up. I'm going to slice them up before we go over the others, because we've got to get our meat marinating. So all you need to do, they've been rinsed, and just kind of quarter them, depending upon how big they are. A couple of them were kind of big, so I thirded them. All right? Yeah, a third is more than a quarter, right? So couldn't be easier. You can leave the skins on. Does not matter what kind of potatoes you've got. You could have russet, you could have yellows, whatever. If you don't have the little round ones, use the big ones and just kind of cut them into bite-sized pieces. All right, so for the marinade of the steak, all right, we need soy sauce. I would use less sodium soy sauce too, but I could have swore I bought some the other day and now I can't find it. So I'm going to go back to the regular soy sauce, only because the Worcestershire sauce does taste really salty. But so we need soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce. Now, most recipes out there you'll see call for hot chili sauce. Wade and I are not that great of fans of hot stuff, so I'm going to use sweet chili sauce, but you could use hot. And in this, you're going to need some pepper. Okay, so I want to get the meat marinating. So what I do with the steak or the beef, you could also make this with chicken. It's really good using chicken too. So I'll just kind of cut it in half if it's a long piece, and then just cut it into strips, kind of like I already have in this bowl. For this recipe, you're going to need about a pound of beef. I've got a little bit more here, probably about 1.5 pounds, because Matthew's here with us this weekend, but he's afraid to be on camera because he looks scruffy. Matthew. He's sticking his tongue out at me. So it might look like, if you're using about 1 pound, which is what the recipe is going to call, it might look like I have a little bit, that I have more, but that's because I do. All right, so I have my marinade already kind of mixed together. I've got our Worcestershire sauce. I got our pepper, calls for a teaspoon of black pepper. I've got the Worcestershire chili, soy, and black pepper in here. So we're going to get this marinating. It doesn't have to marinate long, really, even just a few minutes. So I like to do this as I'm preparing my potatoes, and then also as we cook the potatoes. All right, so we'll just set that aside and let that get nice and half baked. All right, so I'm kind of because I wanted to explain this, I've kind of gone a little bit out of order with the ingredients. So again, I'm just going to go over quick for the sauce, our marinade. We need soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce. You need the sweet or hot chili sauce, and you need some pepper. We don't need any more salt in there. All right, so we talked about our potatoes. Of course, all of this is going to be sauteed together in one pan. Again, trying to keep it as a relatively quick weeknight dinner, so you don't have lots and lots. We're going to need some butter and some oil to fry those in. And now the original recipe calls for fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, and fresh oregano. Now, a lot of times I have fresh oregano around, but I very seldom have fresh thyme and fresh rosemary. So I've kind of calculated this and did this recipe with half a teaspoon of each. Kind of mimics using the fresh. Because always remember, when you use dried herbs, the flavor is enhanced with the dry because you're using more of the dry than you would with the fresh. We already talked about the garlic. Of course, all this is going to be in the recipe. And then we're going to need a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay. My goal was to get our steak in the marinade. So I'm going to clean this up. We'll get out there our cooktop and we'll put everything together. See you in a bit. Okay, so we've got our frying pan, our saute pan over medium heat. I'm going to add some oil. I'm using olive oil. You can use whatever oil you want. And we're going to put about a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon, we'll just say a tablespoon of butter. Because after all, this is garlic and butter, so we got to have a little butter in there. And get that butter melted in there and mixed in with our oil. All right, and then we got our potatoes. So we're going to get our potatoes in the frying pan. Get over here. And we are gonna give these a nice saute. Our goal with this is we want to get a nice brown and caramelization on their ends as they all go popping off. We're not necessarily looking to cook these totally through. They're going to continue to cook a little bit more when we put our meat in. But I'm going to say you're going to need about 5 minutes on each side over medium heat. So we're going to let that go for about 5 minutes, get it to the brown stage. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll cook the other side. So we'll probably be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, I did add a tad bit more oil and butter as I was cooking these, so you might want to do that. You want to keep an eye on it. You want to be able to see, I don't know if you can get that, hon. Oh, wait. A little, you still want, you want the oil. Your potatoes is going to absorb a little bit of the oil, but you still want it to kind of see that on the sides there. I don't know if you guys can see that. But anyway, we got some nice brown on both sides of our potatoes. That might be a little bit hard to see. I don't know, maybe you can see in the pan. But so we've been about 5 minutes. Just burned myself with oil. We've been about 5 minutes. I'm going to give them about 5 more, get a little bit more color, and we should be able to move on to the next step from there. But I just wanted to show you the browning and tell you that you want to keep an eye on your oil. You should see, it should have a nice coating on the bottom of the pan. All right, we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Okay, guys, our potatoes are just about fork tender, maybe a little bit less than fork tender, but that's okay because they're going to continue to cook with our after our meat is done. So I'm going to take our potatoes out of our pan, put them on a plate. I'm going to shut my power source off for a minute. Oop, put these over here. Now, I didn't add any additional salt or pepper to these because, as I said, our meat is going to go back in here as well as our marinade, which is on the salty side anyway. So this is also a great way for home fries too. If I was going to do home fries, I was doing this for breakfast, I would do this pretty much the exact same way, except I might get the potatoes a little bit more brown. But for this method, that's what we want. To me, of course that's not going to go on there. To me, that right there is the definition of golden brown and delicious. All right, so I'm going to put our utensils over there for a minute. We're going to cover this with some tin foil because that will keep it warm and allow it to continue to cook. Oops, there's one thing I forgot, which we didn't talk about in the ingredients. Is going to need either a little bit of water or some vegetable stock, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So I'm going to put my heat source back on. Excuse me. We need a little bit more butter. So we've used about, it looks like a lot of butter, but we've really only used about 2.5 tablespoons, maybe 3. I'm going to put a little bit more butter in there. Tiny bit more oil. Get that moving around a bit. All right, and then we're going to take our marinated meat. And we're going to start to saute it. Now, we want this to brown. And we already have a little bit of moisture from the marinade. So we don't really want to overstuff our pan. You might need to do this in 2 batches. And this is really going to take just a couple minutes on each side. It smells delicious. I think that's good enough. All right, so we're going to let those cook for about 2-3 minutes on each side. Then we're going to turn them over. And in this case, because I don't think I can fit the whole thing in there because of the amount that I've made, I'm going to put that on a separate dish. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, guys, we've been just about 2-3 minutes. We got a nice crust on one side. So we're going to turn them over onto the other side. We're going to turn them all over. And then we're going to, again, go for another couple minutes. Again, like I said earlier, this is going to finish cooking up. It's you know, medium, probably about medium rare right now. It will cook a little bit more. But all right, so that's it. So we're going to turn them all over. And then I'm going to put the second batch in. And when we're done with that second batch, we'll be back. So I'm going to take the first batch and remove it to a plate. Then I'm going to put the second batch in, and we'll be back with the next step. All right, guys, I got all my beef nicely browned now. So I'm going to take this out. Now, I'm not using the spatula for this because I want to keep most of our juices in there and all those nice brown bits. But our meat is all done. And again, don't forget, if you're making this and you're following the measurements from the recipe, yours might not look quite as much as that. All right, so I've got either a little red wine, I've got some vegetable stock, some water. It's going to probably be in total about a quarter of a cup. We want to kind of pour a couple tablespoons there and deglaze our pan. Our pan still is on medium. So we want to scrape up all those nice bits. And what we're doing is we're making a glaze. All right. We want to pour the rest of our marinade in here. And we're going to put our, sorry, not that first, garlic first. And give it a toss around. I don't know if you can tell there, but it's thick, starting to thicken up a little bit so it doesn't go together really fast. And probably about 30 minutes in, 30 seconds, not 30 minutes, you should just about smell that garlic, which I do. Then we're going to put in the rest of all of our herbs. Let us stir around. Now, you're not making a gravy, you're making a glaze, but if you wanted to have a little bit more glaze, just add a little bit more stock and let it reduce down a bit to the desired thickness. That's about where I want it. I'm going to add all our potatoes in there. And we're going to get them all nicely coated. And we want to add our meat in there with any of the juices. And then we want to get that all nicely coated. And at this point, your potatoes should be really close to pork tender. All right, but we'll leave this on, say, medium low for maybe 5-10 minutes. Just make sure everything gets heated back up, but more or less, there you have it. We've got butter, garlic butter, steak and potatoes. And you can see how nicely, so our sauce is reduced to just a really nice glaze. All right, time to eat. Next time you see us, we'll be plating up and having dinner. Okay, now comes the best part, eating. Yummy, let's dig in. We got Matthew here, but he's still, of course, but he's off camera because he looks scruffy. Oh. Okay, it's perfectly pork tender.
It is.
Let's try our beef.
The beef is nice and tender too.
Oh, that's good. Absolutely
delicious.
delicious.
It's delicious.
All right, well, I hope that you have all enjoyed watching us make tonight's dinner. More importantly, I hope you try it yourselves. Let me know. Like I said.
Please like and subscribe. And check out cherryhillhomecooking.com. See you on the next video.
Ciao.
Bye.
Mmm. Oh, the peas. Well, they're probably 2 times big now. Just look at the brown ones.